I'm Jim Blue, and you're watching Crash Course World History. Today we're going to be talking about the Middle East. Yes, the Middle East, home to the first recorded civilization and the only region in the world still trying to figure out how democracy works.
No, Mr. Blue, what do you mean they don't know how democracy works? Isn't democracy from the Greeks?
Well, yes, me from the past, but I'm talking about how the Middle East went from Hammurabi's Code to Saddam Hussein and Khaled Mashal. But we'll get to that later. Listen, you may be smart, kid, but an eye for an eye leaves the whole world binocular. Around 3600 BCE, in the land Meso, or between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, early cities began to show up. These early cities were largely socialist, where farmers could bring their crops to public storehouses, out of which metal workers, or builders, or whoever, could be paid uniform wages in grain.
Mr. Blue, what do you mean they had uniform wages? Like they made uniforms? Like, out of waste?
Oh, me from the past. I hate you. Your jokes were never funny. So anyway, if you lived in a city, you could be something other than a shepherd, which is called specialization of labor. There was also new forms of politics, like Hammurabi, who ruled the New Kingdom of Babylon from 1792 to 750 BCE. Hammurabi's famous law code established things from wages to the fact that the punishment for taking an eye would be having an eye taken. Hammurabi's law code can be pretty insanely harsh, which is why the government was tough on crime. But it did introduce the presumptions of innocence. So we see the authority for protection of social order shifting to men, not gods, which is important, but don't worry, I'll shift back.
The next important civilization we're going to talk about in the Middle East is Byzantium. Byzantium was located in present-day Turkey from 330 CE to 1453 CE. Why, you may ask, is Byzantium important? Well, the Byzantines had their capital in Constantinople. Constantinople was named after the Roman Emperor Constantine. And Constantine was a pretty smart guy. He saw that the Western Roman Empire was crumbling, so he moved the capital to Constantinople. He was like, bam, wow, Constantinople. He named it after himself. Constantinople continued on and became the major power of Christianity after the fall of the Roman Empire. The Byzantines had one of the coolest emperors ever, Justinian, who brought his code to the land.
Wait, do you mean that Justin brought sexy back?
Oh, me from the past. You're not wrong. He did bring a prostitute to be his wife, and she had nearly as much influence as he did. In fact, she took down a rebellion and kept Justinian in power. Justinian's code incorporated the 12 tables of Roman law. This code was used up until 1453, but we'll get to that in a bit. Justinian was the most awesome ruler because he built the gigantic Hagia Sophia. The Byzantine Empire went through a lot of changes with the Great Schism of the Christian Church in 1054 AD, but the Hagia Sophia herself was yet to go through more changes. The Abbasid Caliphate was the Byzantine Empire's Muslim counterpart in modern-day Persia, but in 1258, the Mongols took Baghdad and sacked it and basically ruined Baghdad forever. Wait, what do you mean, Stan? Not forever? You're always ruining history for me.
The most important sacking of the city was the fall of Constantinople on May 29, 1453. Oh, it's time for the open letter. An open letter to the Ottomans? But first, let's see what's in the secret compartment today. Oh, Stan, is this a cupcake? Happy birthday, Istanbul. Dear Ottomans, I love you. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to pass AP World. I used Constantinople falling in every single essay I wrote throughout the whole year. You're clearly one of the best civilizations to ever exist. Thank you for creating the biggest turning point of all time. The fall of Constantinople in 1453. You're the greatest. Best wishes, Jim Blue. Closer to the present day, 1991 CE to be exact, the Gulf War happened. Stan, do we have to talk about this? Okay. Fine. So the Gulf War consisted of a lot of fighting, 38 countries to be exact. The UN got involved, making for the start of the Second Gulf War. Kuwait and Iraq suffered greatly because Saddam Hussein refused to step down from his dictatorship. People who are important in the Middle East today are Khaled Mashal, the leader of the terrorist group Hamas in Palestine. Bashar al-Assad, who is the leader of Syria, which has been in a civil war for over 7 years, and Ali Khamenei, who is the supreme leader of Iran, not the president, the supreme leader. Oh no, Putin, no!
In the Middle East, there are religious and border conflicts. Religious conflicts have been prevalent in the Middle East since the Crusades and the Sunni-Shia conflicts after the death of Muhammad, and into Constantinople being turned into Istanbul. And now, even with Palestine and Israeli conflict. Border conflicts have been a major issue since the formation of civilizations, with constant conquering cycles in the Fertile Crescent to the present issues between Israel and Palestine, Egypt and Sudan, the United Arab Emirates and Iran, Oman and Yemen, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Oof, that's a lot.
These continuous issues, added on to the more current political issues, could spell major change for the Middle East. For example, the Syria peace deals, which could bring about an end, finally, to the tragedies and violence faced by those in Syria. This violence was brought on by the Arab Spring and furthered by al-Assad's oppressive regime. Women's rights, another major issue in the Middle East, has been an issue since the start of civilization as we know it, as the subjugation of women started with the specialization of labor. To say that the Middle East is the most important area of the world throughout history wouldn't be an understatement, as civilization itself was born in Mesopotamia. Even today, the Middle East is a major power source, as Saudi Arabia has one of the best economies in the world. Today's episode of Crash Course was produced and directed by Reem Jebli. Our script supervisor is Arush Fernandez, and the show was written by our high school history teacher, Mr. Peters, with some help from David Arncella. Thanks for watching.